being sold for cash. And a Troutman man has been charged with stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from his employer following an investigation by the Iredell County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Darren Campbell announced the arrest of Joseph Gallitz Jr., 38, of Ashmore Circle, Troutman, in a news release Wednesday. Well, the North Carolina House voted Tuesday to override 6 more of Governor Roy Cooper's vetoes, including legislation to expand charter schools, prohibit biological men from competing in women's sports, ban gender transition surgeries for minors, block costly new building energy mandates, and affirm parental rights over children's education. Now with a look at sports, here's WSIC Sports Director Joe Berg.
Well, it was only a few days without football before it came right back, as tonight the Browns and the Eagles will kick off week 2 of the NFL preseason. The Panthers are back in action tomorrow, as they'll be taking on the New York Giants right here at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. You can catch that game on WSIC starting at 6 p.m., as well as every other game this year on the Panthers' schedule. And the PGA Tour tees off from the BMW Championship.
WSIC weather: sunny today with a high of 87, clear with a low of 66 tonight. Sunshine returns for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The high Friday, 88, Saturday's high 86, and Sunday's high 90. Mike Jackson, WSIC News.
Purple Heart Homes presents Putting the Pieces Back Together, a forum for veterans and the community to connect. Here are your hosts, veterans John Gallina and Brad Borders.
Well, good afternoon. I hope everybody's doing well. The intro says John Gallina and Brad Borders, but unfortunately John is on a secret mission in the deep northeast of the country, and so we're just getting by without him today. Devin is out of town. He's in Texas, down with General Chuck Swanwick, the 42nd Commander of the 82nd Airborne. They're at a conference down there, and so, but anyhow, we are super glad that you are listening today. This is Putting the Pieces Back Together. It's presented by Purple Heart Homes, and we are a 501c3 based right here out of Statesville, North Carolina. We do critical home repair and renovations for veterans all over the nation. And you can find out more about us at phhusa.org. That is phhusa.org. And we have an amazing show today. I am surrounded by a cast of characters in the studio, and they're all so nervous and just really excited to be here. I think that if we had blood pressure machines in here, they would just be going, you should be in a hospital right now. So we're really glad that we have this amazing show, and it's one that I've been waiting to do for a really, really long time. I want to give you a little bit of background. And so about a little over, right at 2 years ago, I got connected with a veteran locally through some of our friends over in law enforcement, and said that they called me and they said, hey, we've got a veteran that's in trouble and has been charged. And it's a long story, but through the story, what I found out is that this young man had had a couple of combat deployments that were very kinetic. He had a lot of friends that when he got home that had taken their own lives, and he was in a bad way. He was very stable, but anyhow, things got bad for him one night, and he ended up in the back of a patrol car. And unfortunately, through that process, none of the context of his life was able to be shared in the court proceedings, and so none of his combat experience, none of the emotional trauma that he had been through, and just none of the story was told. And I just thought that was, I was like, man, there's got to be a thing, right? There's got to be something that could alleviate that. And I didn't really know much about it, but somebody messaged me and told me that there was a thing called Veterans Treatment Court. And so I started looking into it, and then started talking to some friends of mine that were involved in the justice community. And lo and behold, we got the ball rolling. And so what our show is about today is it's about Veterans Treatment Court and what in the world is that. And I have some critical players in the room, in the studio with us today here at the lovely WSIC studios on Radio Road in Statesville, North Carolina. And so we've got Sarah Kirkman, who's our district attorney here in Iredell County, and Alexander, isn't that right?
That's right.
How long have you been the DA?
Since 2009.
Man, you've been doing that a while. Yeah, we're very grateful. And Sarah and I went to the same high school, too.
That's right.
She's younger than me.
Go Greyhounds.
Go Greyhounds, right. Go Greyhounds. And with her is Assistant DA Carrie Nitsu. Carrie, how are you today?
I'm doing well.
How long have you been an Assistant DA?
20 years.
I don't believe it. You're no way. Really?
Started in 2002.
2002. Okay, all right. Awesome. And also beside them is Carrie's cousin, uncle.
Yep.
How are we calling? What are we calling him?
He's family.
He's family. Dave Childers and his service dog Dita. And Dave has been on our show a number of times. He's been on here a couple of times here.
Yeah, 3 times, I think.
Yeah. Dave is a Marine Corps veteran, and we only allow one Marine in the room at a time because that could get dangerous.
Yeah.
And so Dave is here, and Dave is going to be involved with the court as a mentor.
Yep.
And Dita is here. And if you didn't know this, Dave wrote a book about his dog called God Sent the Dog. You can find that on Amazon. And proceeds from the sale of that book go to Purple Heart Homes.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
And
sir.
we're looking forward to hearing more from you. And last but not least, we've got Kyle Going, Navy veteran, and is our veteran treatment court, newly hired veteran treatment court coordinator. And welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And so this is going to be a great show. So I want everybody to just kind of buckle in and hang on. We're going to take a break here in about 4 minutes. But before we do that, I want to talk to Kyle because he's the new guy in the room. And I want to hear a little bit about your story, brother. And tell us a little bit about where you're from. And you're a Navy veteran. So, you know, what in the world, why'd you join the Navy and what'd you do? And how did you get here?
I'm from upstate New York. My dad was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
He was on a destroyer. He did 12 years. He was actually one of the first ships that tested the Navy Sea Whiz. So
Okay, wait, back up. I don't know what a Sea Whiz is, but
it's
that
an
sounds
anti-missile system. For,
like the Phalanx gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoots
oh,
the
interesting.
3,000 rounds a second.
Depleted uranium rounds to
Yep.
shoot missiles out of the
Yep.
sky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that
was
doesn't
a-
even seem possible.
It was the first boat to test it.
Okay.
That was the USS McDonough.
Okay.
It was back in the early 80s.
Okay. Awesome.
Basically told me that if I ever wanted to have a future, I needed to have an honorable discharge from the military.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't really have much of a choice.
So your dad, basically, you got drafted by your dad.
Yeah, he told me I had to go in.
Okay.
But he made sure that he was a power plant operator after he got out, and he basically said the future is in power. He's like never gonna not be a need for power.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to get an advanced electronics job in the military, and so when I went in, they did the ASVAB. I scored pretty high on it, and they were like, "You have choice of any job you want." And I was like, "Advanced electronics is what I want." And they said, "Well, you have sonar tech." And I was like, "That sounds boring." And then they said, "Radioman." No offense, but I was like, "That sounds really boring." and then they were like, "Well, what about missile tech?" And I was like, "It's got missile in the name.
That's
it's
right.
gonna be cool."
That's gotta be
And
it.
they told me I'd see the world. They were way wrong. I saw the inside of a submarine, and I went out into the Atlantic Ocean, did circles, and came back.
Oh, right.
But, yeah, so I did that. I was on a ballistic missile submarine for 4 years after a year of training. Then I went to NASA, because where else do you launch rockets? It's
That's
this
right.
place. It's where we recertify all the submarines to show that they can still launch them.
Yeah.
Got out, and I was in nuclear power for 7 years. And then in that course, I ended up moving to New Hampshire, but my wife was from Florida.
Live free or die. That's New Hampshire, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Love the gun laws up there.
Yeah.
There's none.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, she's from Florida, and she said she was coming back down south with or without me. And I decided to stay with her. So
Right.
now I'm back down here.
Smart
and-
man.
Yeah, yeah. And through a series of events, I ended up with this job.
Okay. Awesome. And we are really glad to have you here. Tell us briefly, we've got 1 minute or so until break, but you are the Veterans Treatment Court Coordinator. We're going to get more into what all that looks like, but what's your job now?
So my job is basically to I interview and vet candidates that are incarcerated or out on bond, and make sure that they are good candidates for the program based on their charges and their history and the criteria that those two lovely people over there have set aside for everybody.
Yeah, okay. All right, and so we're going to get more into that. You're also kind of herding cats in the justice system.
Oh, yeah.
You're like putting out information about meetings and things like that, and what the Veterans Treatment Court, we've got a whole team of people that it spans a broad scope. And so we're going to talk more about that, about Veterans Treatment Court when we come back from break. You're listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. We're here in the studio with everybody from Veterans Treatment Court here in Iredell County, and we will be back here in just a few minutes.
More Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders, coming up on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Asheville native Kanan Cox is performing Friday, August 25th at Kane Center for the Arts. Get your tickets while they last. Show starts at 8 p.m. Visit canearts.org.
Hey,
That's
we're on Facebook now?
CAIN-arts.org.
All right, can you turn that the
showcase?
commercials down in my ear? That would be awesome. Thank you. I had commercials in my ear. They were good commercials, but I just didn't want them in my ear.
That was my wife.
No, is that what your wife? That was a great commercial. I just didn't.
That was good.
That's in your ear all the time,
That was
right?
a solid recovery.
Yeah,
That's my morning
it is.
show.
It's awesome. So Scott Stevenson, one of our veteran mentors,
Oh, I'm sorry.
he sent me a text message. Said he's evidently listening. He said, "Sea whiz, that is how sailors pee at sea." So,
Go Scott, tell him, buddy.
That's good. That's good.
That's true.
So,
I didn't have one on the submarine.
so tell us while we're on break. Tell us a funny story from your time in the Navy, man.
I don't have a.
Nothing funny
So-
ever happened on a submarine.
So when I was junior, one of the things that you do, you chip paint, clean dishes, whatever. We were out there. We were refitting the sub. The sub constantly goes out. There's two crews, gold and blue. One crew stays out for 90 days, brings it back. Both crews refit it, and then the other crew takes it out, and then the other one does training. We brought it in, chipping paint, and it was starting to rain. And the chief, E7, was like, "Hey, we need to get this paint on the boat as fast as possible before it rains." It was already raining.
Oh,
And I'm
right,
like,
right.
So we had a little dinghy on the side. It was sunk because it had a hole in it, and so we had to pull it up, bucket the water out. So we had 3 guys in the boat. One guy was bucketing water.
Right.
One guy was painting the sub on the side, and then the other one was moving us around with a 2x4. We didn't even have an oar. It's the Navy, and we didn't have an oar.
Right.
And so
That's awesome.
That was one of my first experiences.
That would
with
be
the sub.
great to have
Yeah.
video evidence of that.
Yep.
That'd be a recruiting commercial.
In the rain.
Yeah, join the Navy.
It turned out horrible.
Yeah.
It wasn't great.
That's
And
good.
We got in trouble. It was bad.
Yeah.
And then the chief was like, "I didn't tell him to do it."
I didn't tell him to do
Yeah,
it.
we
you
got
did,
down in the
Chief.
sinking dinghy on our own.
Yeah, that's right.
Without anybody telling us.
30 away.
30 seconds? Okay, we'll go back live. So thanks for everybody sticking around here on Facebook. That's fantastic. We're up to 5 listeners now on Facebook.
Shout out to
That is-
Richard's Coffee Shop.
Hey, shout out to Richard's Coffee
They're
Shop.
getting love in our community calendar this week.
Oh, man, no kidding. That is fantastic. All right, Sarah, when we come back, I'm going to start back with you, okay? Let that sound. And then we'll go
Now
to
more
Sarah.
Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders on the new 105.9 100.7
Like
WSIC.
a wrong day of drug court.
Welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together. We're glad you're with us. We are presented by Purple Heart Homes. Purple Heart Homes is a 501c3 based out of Statesville, North Carolina, but we do work nationally. You can find out more about us at phhusa.org. And today our show is revolving around this thing called Veterans Treatment Court. What in the world is it, and how did it get here? And we're joined by some amazing folks in the studio at WSIC here with Sarah Kirkman and Carrie Nitsu, Dave Childers, and Kyle Going, all a part of Veterans Treatment Court. And Sarah, I want to speak with you as our DA, and if you would, tell me, man, how did all this thing get happening with you? I mean, and first of all, tell me your connection to to veterans.
To veterans. Well, my father was a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I also had an uncle I was really close with, and he was in World War II.
Okay.
I have a cousin who is a lieutenant general in the Army.
No kidding.
No kidding.
A Kirkman?
No, he's
Okay.
Mohan.
Okay.
So
That's the good side of the family. Right?
That's right.
Lieutenant General. That's
That's
way
right.
up there.
So, can I tell you a little funny story about
Please,
that? I wrote
absolutely.
an article in the paper for Veterans Day, a column in the paper, and I mentioned him in it. And then I was like, well, hey, I'm going to send that to him just so he can read it because I mentioned him in it. And so I sent it to his wife, and I was like, hey, Cindy, I sent I wrote this article, and I had Chris in it, and I wanted you to see it. She said, yeah, we already know. I was like, really? She said, yeah, some of his people had already found
His
that.
people.
They had found his
Right.
name.
Yeah.
So-
Lieutenant generals have
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, a lot of people.
So, yeah, Chris Mohan. So if people are
He already,
listening-
they already
listening.
know.
They're
They already
listening.
know. They're vetting it right now. Wondering whether
There's
they
a
need to
car
send
going to his house
That's
a
right.
nondescript car to
That's
show up
right.
at your house. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
my
good.
connection to veterans.
That's awesome. So, about a year and a half ago, we had a meeting at Purple Heart Homes, and it was me and you and Carrie, and I think Jim Mixon,
Jim Mixon was with
our
us,
clerk
yep.
of court, and it was a really good meeting. And so, we kind of pitched this idea of a Veterans Treatment Court. Could you explain to everybody, like, the bare basics of what is Veterans Treatment Court?
So it's really kind of a court. Well, it's really a treatment ordered court, treatment ordered through the court.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's for veterans, and it's a different way to deal with veterans who become involved with the justice system.
Yeah.
Instead of being adversarial the way court is generally, it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
There's a whole team that's working for this veteran that all get together to decide what is the best course of action for this veteran.
Yeah.
So, of course, my office has to decide whether the person is going to be appropriate for the program. So only certain charges would apply. It wouldn't be something violent, wouldn't be a serious felony. But low-level felonies and nonviolent offenses, those are what we would be looking for. And a person who has substance abuse or mental health issues, that's what we would be looking for. And it's a way to offer treatment and support to veterans who have, of course, served for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, that's wonderful. Carrie, you're the assistant DA here. You're going to be the prosecutor, but you don't really feel like a prosecutor when you're doing Veterans Treatment Court, though, do you?
No, it's unlike anything that I've ever experienced before. It's that whole team approach, wraparound approach for the veteran.
Yeah, what's your connection to veterans?
My dad is a Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
He was in the Army. My husband's a Marine.
Good Lord. More Marines.
My ex-husband's Army, 82nd
Right.
Airborne.
Yeah.
My Uncle Don and his twin brother,
Yes.
Marines. And I have another uncle and a cousin that were in the Army as well. Trying to think. I think that's everybody. Did I leave anybody out?
I think that's everybody.
That's
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah. And so as we kind of pulled this thing together, and we didn't really know what we were doing, and we were asking a lot of questions, you went and visited the Veterans Treatment Court in Catawba County. And tell me about what was your experience there, either one of you, what you saw and what you heard, and what was it that was inspiring about that?
You can go ahead.
you can go.
It was amazing for me. It was unlike, like I said, I keep saying unlike anything I've ever seen or before. I've never seen a courtroom where people clapped for the person as they came up, where they announced the days of sobriety and clapped for them, where there were incentives for doing well. Obviously, some punishments for not
Sure.
doing well, but with an with an empathetic understanding of how those things go on, and just punishments that would still benefit the person and understanding their substance abuse and mental health issues.
Yeah. So, you get anything to add, Sarah?
I was just going to say, talking about how all this started was, I'd heard of Veterans Treatment Court because there are others in the state, but I didn't really know how it worked. And then, these two guys from Purple Heart Homes call on us and say, we want to have this meeting.
Those
and
people.
so,
Those
those
people.
people. So it was really, it was eye-opening to us. So it was really rainy that day. I remember
It
it
was
so
rainy.
well.
Yeah.
And Carrie and I left and went back to the office, and I was like, well, what do you think? And she's like, I think we should do it. So we immediately called Catawba County because
Yeah.
we're like, well, let's see this thing in
Yeah.
action. So that's when we went to Catawba County, and it was really soon after that first meeting that we went and saw it. And it was just, I was blown away by it. It was very impressive.
Yeah, it was, and I went to, and I echo everything that you just said. The celebratory nature of people's victories. In recovery is not a linear event, right? It's not just people start recovering and then they just get better. There's ups and downs. There's regression. There's progression.
And it never ends.
And it never ends.
You're always,
right? You're
always
always
in
recovering, right? You're always recovering. Kyle, if you would, before we, no, Kyle, you've been up to the court, and you've met there's a guy named Jared Weaver that holds your position up there.
Yep.
What did you learn from him, and then in your observation of the court? Because I know you went to they had a graduation last Friday, a week ago.
Oh yeah.
And just give me a highlight of what you saw and experienced there.
It's very personal. Everyone's been to court for traffic or something, and when you go, you stand in front of the judge asks you a couple questions, you give your statement, and then there's a ruling, and it's done, it's over, you move on. But it's not like that. He asks every person, how are they doing? What went wrong? What went right? How's it going from here on? What are you going to do next week? He gets involved with every single person. Yeah. And I know our judge is definitely very personal, and she's going to want to talk to every single participant in depth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And I fully expect that that's the way it's going to go. I think we're going to be as good, if not better. Yeah, awesome. Well, before we're going to go to break here in about 2 minutes. Before we do that, I want to introduce everybody to Dave Childers. And Dave, just share a little bit about you and your story in as best you can in 2 minutes.
Gee, that's impossible.
They pulled up the bus.
Yeah. That's right.
And there was free crayons, right?
Let me bring it a little more recent.
That's right.
Dave Childers, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Go Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you have that.
Yeah, and right out of high school into the Marine Corps. That was an experience. Came down the road in North Carolina, got a job in law enforcement, was here a long time doing that. Then ended up overseas after 9/11. I was too old to re-enlist, so I took a job with the State Department as a contractor, went overseas, ended up in places, pearls of the universe, like Fallujah, Kandahar.
One of them places you went, you found a woman and brought her home.
I did. I was in a place called Podievo, Kosovo. And I was wondering, what am I doing here? And then, bam, I went, now I know what I'm doing here.
Hey, lady.
Yeah.
And she was a cop, too.
And she was a cop, so I had to be, we were both armed.
You could have gone to jail.
Yeah, well, don't start that. Anyway, I could outpunted my coverage, right?
That's right. Yes, you outpunted your coverage. I think y'all celebrated a milestone anniversary here in the last week or so.
20 plus.
20 plus years.
It's always going to be 20 plus. We'll never tell the truth.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But
and the fact that she's tolerated you for the last 20 plus years, that's a Do you know what that says? That says something about her.
It does. It does.
Something good.
Something good. And to wrap this up, I met Brad a long time ago, and
Yep.
we've been experiencing some things together through Reboot and different mentoring projects. And I'm very proud and very happy to be part of the Veterans Treatment Court.
Yeah,
And,
well, we're glad to have you, and we've got
Lucky to have
a
you.
we've got a really good, solid core team of veteran mentors that are going to be a part of this process. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to talk a little bit about what a mentor is. We're going to talk about what in the world, who's on our team. We're going to talk about those folks and what this big team that takes to make this happen. And then we'll talk about, hey, what is it going to look like and what do we hope to see? And so you're listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. And we're talking Veterans Treatment Court here today and live in the WSIC studio. So we're going to step off, go to break, and join us back here in just a few minutes.
There's more Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders on the way. From the new.
She was like,
She's
Tell
got
me more.
such a. Justin's wife's got such a delightful
Oh, that
voice.
one's not his wife.
Oh, that's not?
She's on the community
You were
Who's-
just
who's
you just
the-
digging
who's the
yourself
lady
into a
doing
big
the-
hole, man.
Doing the.
some
some lady?
Canadian lady.
Oh, from Canada?
Some
Nice Canadian.
the,
lady.
no,
I mean, like they
the
lives
Canadian
here?
lady from somewhere else.
She's in
on
Canada.
Yeah, on Canada. She's in Canada.
She's on Canada.
She's on it.
Right, she's on it.
The
On it
Canadian
like
lady in
doggone.
Canada.
Hey, so everybody that's watching, we are in break now from our live broadcast here, and so we're glad everybody's tuning in on Facebook. And man, we're up to 5 folks. Wow, that is crazy. You know, I think our top number of listeners one time, I think we had 22.
Wow.
I mean, I'd like to see if we could like crush that.
What did you
sometime.
do that day? Who
You
had
know.
who had their shirt off in here? That's
Yeah,
was me.
could be.
Definitely.
Yeah, we don't want it to go there. I mean,
that's
does
how you keep it
FCC
going.
regulate that as well?
Not on digital.
Right. So the question came up that, you know, Devin is a proponent of the bourbon, right? And he likes to sip the bourbon.
Sure.
So our question, and I had heard, do you remember the show WKRP in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
All right, so, and if you have Pluto TV, you can watch that. But Johnny Fever was the DJ on there, and he got drunk on the air in one of the episodes. He called it his DOA show, Drunk on the Air. And so I remember in the show that it was some kind of FCC violation that he did. And so I called Wilcox from William Wilcox. I called Wilcox, and I was like, hey, man, I got a question for you. Can you get drunk while you're on the radio, right? He was like, absolutely, right? He's like, we did a thing when he was in San Diego. They did a thing where they had a police officer come in, and they had liquor, and then they did sobriety tests, right? As he drank, right? And I was like, well, how did you get home? He was like, I didn't. He said, I passed out in the lounge, and my wife forgot about me and ended up coming to get me later on or something like that.
Justin Dion, the executive director of Kane Center for the Arts, does a show Tuesdays, and he had Lost Worlds Brewing in. So I'm going to pick up my kids from daycare. All of a sudden, I start hearing cans.
Oh, yeah.
popping in the studio.
In the studio.
on
Here we go.
Tuesday. And I call Bill, the producer, down. I
He's
say,
like,
what's
hey,
going
what's
on?
going on
Just
down
do
there?
a little taste test.
Yeah,
Just
it's a little taste test.
test.
Yeah.
So
Did
bring
the
Southern
show get
Distillery in, bring Southern Distillery in, and let's have a bash. That's what
Oh, okay. Did that show get out of hand?
no, it was at
'Cause
the
it
very
could.
end. It could.
It
They
could.
did during the last segment, so there wasn't enough time.
You wouldn't want to start a show
Yeah.
with like Southern Star, like that
Yeah, this ain't Joe
Paragon
Rogan's podcast,
120
3
proof
hours.
bourbon.
The definition of pre-gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that could get by about third break.
30 seconds.
If third break, it would be.
Does anybody need anything? I bumped the air down a
Ugly.
little bit. I know it's a little
So-
warm in here. I
Sounds
bumped
like
that
you're
down.
happy. Yes.
Water, anything? Water for anybody? The star of the show today.
Clearly.
Right.
Clearly.
How many dogs?
Eve shows that they have on NBC and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then they go like at 11 o'clock. They go local news.
Yeah.
That 30 minutes they hammer it.
Oh,
When they
you
come
know.
back, the 30 minutes
You
up
know.
until the year, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's Carson Daly.
Continues now. Here are your hosts, John Gallina and Brad Borders on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, welcome back to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. We're glad you're here today. It's a wonderful Thursday. We're heading into the weekend. It's going to be an awesome weekend, and really glad that you're listening today. And we are joined today by the team, part of the team for Veterans Treatment Court, which is going to start soon. I mean, soon, very soon. Veterans Treatment Court is a restorative approach to justice rather than what I heard you say, adversarial approach to justice for veterans that are justice involved, veterans that have been arrested and that the crimes that they have committed are somehow connected either to substance abuse or mental health issues. And so that is getting ready to start here in Iredell County. The county received a grant from the Department of Justice, I believe. Is that correct? The Department of Justice?
Yes.
Okay. The feds.
The feds.
The feds, right? The feds sent Iredell County some money to run this thing, and so for the next couple of years, it's going to be funded by that. And in the studio today is our DA, Sarah Kirkman, the Assistant DA, Carrie Nitsu, the Veterans Treatment Court Coordinator, Kyle Going, and veteran mentor, Dave Childers, and his service dog, Dita, which is awesome. And again, there's been a book written about Dita, and you can pick that up on Amazon. It's called God Sent the Dog. Yeah. It's fantastic. Hey, Kyle, tell me who's on our team. Is this this amazing team that's been put together? What does it take to do a Veterans Treatment Court? Who are the principal players?
So I just found out Raymond Dance is going to be the probation officer.
Okay.
He is a Navy veteran, and he got accepted. I can say it at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, I was told I couldn't say anything until after 1. So.
Okay, great.
So he is definitely going to be our probation officer. Dennis Goings is the supervisor. I'm pretty sure he's still going to be mostly involved.
And Dennis is an Army veteran, right?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he showed me his stack of medical records that he had. I went to his office, which is huge. His office is literally the entire front of the building. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
Stack.
Like your office?
Yeah, it's yeah,
like yours.
yeah.
Did they give you a broom closet over at the courthouse?
So Dennis came over to give me the list of people on probation, and they opened the door and he goes, "You weren't kidding." He goes, "This is awful." And then I went to his office and I was like, "What?" I mean, he has like 3 doors that go into his own office. I'm like, "That's ridiculous."
You got to earn the right to be heard, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the mentor coordinator.
I am the mentor coordinator,
and we've been in touch a lot.
Yes. We will be
Atrice
more.
Bailey is our VJO for the Veterans Justice Outreach for the VA. Glenn Roseman, he's the evaluator.
All right. So Sarah, tell us, what is an evaluator?
Well, he was somebody that we had to have on our team, and he worked at Mitchell Community College. I know in Catawba County they had a university professor, so we thought he would be a great fit because he had ties to the drug court that had started in Catawba County. So he had lots of experience with this concept of court. But he'll be keeping statistics. He'll be evaluating the effectiveness of our program.
Awesome.
And just letting us know how we're doing.
Yeah, and that's really important for the community to know as well, because ultimately this is a community program. The citizens of our county are impacted by this. There's families that are impacted by this. There's going to be victims that are impacted by this in some cases that need to know that the process that we're going through is working, and Glenn will help us help us keep track of that. That's really awesome. Carrie, who else is on our team?
Well, so Judge Carol Hicks is our judge for Veterans Treatment Court, and her backup is Judge Brian Corbett.
Yes.
And my backup is Scott Cranford, who's an assistant DA.
You know, Brian Corbett is the only judge I've ever met with a sleeve tattoo.
Skulls. Yeah, skulls.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd like
I
to
actually,
know the story.
I forgot he was the judge when he walked into training because he was wearing a T-shirt with those, and I was like,
Yeah.
who's that?
I thought I was like that's a guy. That looks like a guy I used to serve with. I
Yeah.
thought he was like an operator or something. Like he's a ex-Green Beret or something. So
We also have Brantley Oswalt,
Yes, we
who's
do.
our defense attorney, and he's a veteran.
he's an Air Force veteran, I think. Right?
Coast
No,
Guard.
Coast Guard.
Coast
Shallow,
Guard.
shallow Navy.
Shallow name.
Yeah,
The Coast Guard's not a part of the Department of Defense anymore.
they are not.
Until the Navy says we need you to be
Department
a part
of Homeland Security.
That's right. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay. Who else?
We have 2 bailiffs from the Iredell County Sheriff's Office, and we have
Mental health.
One of them is a veteran.
yes,
One of the, yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
Mikeson.
and yes, our mental health treatment provider. Our treatment provider is Daymark.
Yeah, it's so as you can hear with all the names that we've run through, it's a large team of people to help make this thing go, right? So, Kyle, how does a veteran go from being in the back of a police car to getting into Veterans Treatment Court? What's the process? What does it look like?
There's a lot of different vetting parts. When they come in, they meet the magistrate. The magistrate has updated forms now that ask if they're a veteran. Then when they go to first appearances, the judge also asks, and I'm there every morning for the first appearances to make sure that the judge asks.
Yeah.
I harass them.
Yeah.
And
Do you have a
then-
big hat that says veteran on it so you can just point to
I
it?
actually sit, so I'm actually, where my seat is, it's behind the computer screen, so sometimes I have to lean around. And Judge Graham will look at me and be like, thank you.
I forgot about that. Yeah, right. Are you?
But yeah, so
yes.
I make sure that they ask. But then, there's also in-person first appearances, and then, maybe sometimes people come in and they don't understand the question. Or they don't want to answer the question, and then I get involved with the jail. I get all the information, and I compile it into a specially formatted list that has to be very specific in order to send it to the VA. And if it's not, they will send you back it over and over
Of course.
again.
Why wouldn't they?
At which point, then I recheck everybody to make sure that they're veterans. Then once that happens, I then confirm with the VA that they came back, and then I get their statuses of discharges, what they may have done, all the information that's available to me. And then I start touching base with people, and I go over to the jail and I talk to them in person.
Yeah.
I don't like to do it over video or anything over the phone. I want to make sure I'm as personable as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, the court's going to start here. What are we thinking in the next month?
September 14th.
It's September 4th. We're just locking that in now.
I'm putting it out.
We're putting it out. So that's official. September 14th is going to be the launch point.
Right.
And part of that process and part of the team is this mentor component, which is sort of a unique thing that Veterans Treatment Court does. And Dave is here, and I've asked Dave to be a mentor. And Dave, what are you looking forward to about doing this, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Well, I think I might have a more unique perspective than most of the mentors we're going to get, because aside from being a veteran, you set me up good.
Look, man, I know how to pitch you a softball.
Yeah. Aside from being a veteran, I was in law enforcement for many, many years, so I got the locking them up part of it done.
Yeah.
I understand all that.
Right.
And then I had a little altercation in Mecklenburg County and ended up in front of a judge down there.
So, Dave,
Yes.
you mean to tell me that you actually wore a badge
Yes.
for a bit,
Yes.
and then you got put in a car by people with badges?
They were very nice.
Yeah, I know they were. I heard.
Hey,
I heard
we
this
know
story.
you.
I think it's a very unique perspective, and
Yeah.
Dave. I mean, all kidding aside, I sort of walked with you through that process.
You did.
And your recovery from that, and I just want to tell everybody that Dave has made a full recovery from all of that, and I also want to say this: God was very good to you during that process,
yes.
and a lot of grace and mercy was shown to you you did not have a Veterans Treatment Court to go through.
I did not. And
Yeah.
I was telling Sarah and Carrie during the break that I was sinking in front of that judge.
Yeah.
I had a top-notch lawyer, and I was sinking fast. I was looking at jail time.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
until my lawyer leaned over and said, "Can I tell her where you've been?" Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. And he mentioned my time in Iraq, Afghanistan, Kosovo, those kind of things. The possibility that I had mental health issues.
Possibility.
Yeah, and the judge's demeanor changed immediately. And she was like, "Tell me more.
Yeah, right.
Tell me more."
Isn't that something?
It makes a difference. I mean,
It does.
It did. It made
just
an
those stories.
absolute difference.
It didn't mean, and here's what I want everybody to know. It doesn't mean, but Dave, were you guilty of doing what you
Yes,
did?
yes.
You're
Oh, she
100%
made it
guilty,
clear
right?
that she understood.
Yeah, you're 100% guilty. Got it. We understand all that. And
Yeah.
so it's not about
No.
people getting out of anything.
No.
It's about, and what we're about is people getting to something, right? And so I can't think of a more perfect mentor for this. So on September 14th, we're going to have our first court. You're going to get paired up with one of our brand new veterans. So what a mentor is going to be doing. Mentor is not on the team, not privy to all the information, but is simply a battle buddy for the veteran that's going through this process and sticks with them all the way through to graduation and celebrates their success and encourages them when they're struggling. And so it's going to be a really neat thing. Hey, we're going to step off here and go to break. You're listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, and it's presented to you by Purple Heart Homes. We're based out of Statesville. We do home repair for disabled veterans, but evidently we also get involved in Veterans Treatment Court as well.
And get others involved.
Yeah, and get others involved. Yeah, and so maybe in a year from now you might be mad at me. So, but we're really glad that you've tuned in today, and we're going to come back after break, and we're going to talk about what Veterans Treatment Court is going to mean for the community, and we're also going to talk about what do we hope to see happen through this process. So we're really thankful that you're here. Thanks for listening to WSIC. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Well done.
Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders will return after this short break on the new 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Asheville native Kanan Cox is performing Friday, August 25th at Kane Center for the Arts. Get your tickets while they last. Show starts at 8 p.m. Visit canearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. Want to showcase your music skills? Richard's Coffee Shop and Military Museum in downtown Mooresville has their music jam sessions every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to noon. Richard's Coffee Shop, located in downtown Mooresville. For more info, visit welcomevets.com. Ever dreamed of seeing Freddie Mercury and Queen live? Absolute Queen, a Queen tribute, will be playing at Boatyard Eats in Cornelius Friday, August 18th. Tickets are $20 online. Enjoy live music and at a...
Joe Berg.
Oh, what's he saying?
He said, "Great show," and he did like this.
Oh.
The Salt Life.
Two of them,
Salt
two
Life,
of these with some exclamation point. And Devin said, "Hello from
Joe,
Texas."
where are you?
Joe, where are you? You're supposed to be here running the board.
I'm failing miserably.
Ben is not failing. He's not failing. He's
Ben's
doing
not
good.
okay.
He's not okay. He needs help. He needs therapy.
It's his first show. He's
got a
he's
little,
nervous.
first show.
The leg is going crazy over there. I can see it. You guys can.
Dave and I are very familiar with what it takes to recover from post-traumatic stress, and we can help you with that. Yeah, we can help you with that.
Can I pet Dita after this?
Yeah, you can. She can see it. Look how calm she is. She's like, oh. Hey, I got attacked by a pit bull this morning.
Ooh.
On my bike.
Hey.
Riding out on
Like a
is there
taxi?
not, is there a leash law in Iredell County?
It's vague.
It's vague.
It is because the leash law can be your verbal.
Oh, verbal leash?
Yeah.
Yes, it can be
But
verbal.
they
You
have
come
to
here.
obey.
Yeah, come.
You come here, dog.
And if it turns and come, that's
leashed.
good. That's good.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Well, this
my
dog,
understanding anyway.
this particular dog out on Elmwood Road wanted to eat me for breakfast.
Okay.
This dog ran. We Brian Dacre and I, affectionately known as Rambo, we ride around a 5-mile loop out there, and every 3 mornings a week. And this dog, first lap, attacked us, but was too slow, right? But the second lap, we were cooling down, so we were riding real slow. And he came from, like out of nowhere. He's in front of me, and I was like trying to bunny hop, couldn't do it. And then he came right for my shoe.
Ooh.
I thought he was going to get my shoe.
What'd you
and
do?
I yelled at him and pedaled real hard. So,
Sometimes
and
it
got
works.
away. I escaped unscathed. How many?
Stop you in your tracks. Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
Call now to speak with John Gallina and Brad Borders at 704-873-1400. It's Putting the Pieces Back Together on WSIC.
Oh, we are back. Man, live in the WSIC studios. I'm going to say this again for young Kyle over there. You are listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. You can find out more about us at phhusa.org. And I would be remiss if I did not tell you about some cool events that we've got coming up. We have a golf tournament that is happening in October. I believe it's October 26th. We have Take That Hill, which is our cycling event and workout. And I believe are my two of my guests, at least, maybe three, maybe four, are volunteering at that event this year. Maybe, let me twist your arm. But that's a cycling event held at Southern Distilling Company here in Statesville, and that's going to be, and there's going to be a workout of the day. It's going to be awesome, and so we're really excited about that. And then we've got a clay shoot that's happening at Hyatt Farms coming up on September the 13th. You can find out more about that at our website. That's phhusa.org. And we're glad to have you listening today. We are in the studio. We've been talking the whole time about Veterans Treatment Court. What in the world is that? It's a restorative approach to justice versus an
adversarial.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That's awesome, man. That's like some doctrinal statements right there. So it's a restorative approach to justice for veterans that are entangled with the justice system, that their crimes that they've committed are somehow connected to substance abuse or mental health issues. It effectively just brings context to the story, gives them an opportunity. It coalesces all the services that we have available in the county through treatment centers and groups and the VA and all the resources that they bring, gives them an opportunity to grow and heal and get better, as opposed to just doing time. And we're really excited to be a part of that. We're so happy it is happening here in Iredell County. And Sarah, I got a question for you. What do you think about this question? Why is this important for our community? What would you say? What would you tell people? If somebody they see you on the street here in the next couple of days, hey, I heard you on the radio. Why in the world is that important to Statesville?
Well, I think obviously because we owe it to our veterans.
Yeah.
We owe it to them to do something to help them.
Yeah, I agree.
And like you said, it's a restorative approach.
Carrie, what was our mantra whenever anybody would give us pushback? What would we say?
We don't hate veterans.
We don't hate veterans. We're going to get T-shirts made that says we don't hate veterans, right? or we could ask the question, well, why do you hate veterans? What have they done to you? What have veterans done to you other than raise their right hand and say, I'll go, right?
I got to say, Brad, if you don't, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
My wife's from Kosovo, as I mentioned earlier, and she came here to America, and as the years went and she observed and she seen things, she was appalled, and still is, the treatment that veterans get in this country, how they have to fight and scrape for everything they get from the VA.
Yeah.
Right? The government would rather do anything than help a veteran. Mm-hmm. And and she's right. It's just.
Yeah, it can be kind of frustrating. And there are a lot of veterans. There's been a rash of veteran suicides that happen in VA parking lots and things like that. And so, and again, I believe that is geographic dependent because, I know that the veterans I know, they go to the VAs locally, the clinics and the treatment centers locally. I've heard good things about the folks that serve and do that in our community. Kyle, what do you think? Why do you think it's important to our community to have this program going?
Safety. I mean, we're trying to change a culture. I mean, people have been repeat offenders, and if we can stop that, I mean, we're saving tax dollars and keeping criminals from reoffending, and it just usually it gets worse. I mean, they don't have a tendency to stay in the same thing over and over again. It progresses and gets worse and worse,
and it never gets the cycle never gets broken.
Yeah. And so
I think to bring up, and tax dollars is another thing that I think is critically important. Sarah, do you or Carrie, do you guys know what the cost is to keep somebody incarcerated in the jail for a year? What that cost is?
I don't do math, Brad,
Right.
because I'm a lawyer.
Right.
But I will tell you that at one time, and it may be higher now, it was $73 a day.
$73 a
in the
day.
Iredell County Jail.
Yeah, and so let's just imagine that a veteran comes in and he's sentenced to a year in jail, but he's there because the crime he committed was because he was having some mental health issues or some type of substance abuse thing. So let's just imagine he had Veterans Treatment Court, and in lieu of that sentencing, he's able to get into this program, stay out of jail, so A, doesn't cost the county $72 a day, plus he can still be employed, right? What happens when you're employed? I believe some taxes get taken out of your check.
Yeah.
If you own anything or you drive a car, you're paying some type of property tax to the county. Not only are you saving tax dollars, but they're putting tax dollars back into the county. And not only that, but instead of sitting and not getting the help that they need, and then probably within, who knows how long, rate of recidivism's, what is it? Amongst a normal criminal population, is it 50%? Is it 5 out of 10 back before a judge?
Do you know? I'd say it's higher than that. But
Higher than that, okay. Well, let's just go with 50%. Seems to me that the Justice for Vets stats on Veterans Treatment Court looks like it's about anywhere from 80 to 90% are never back before a judge, right? That's what it looks like nationwide, right? And again, I would say that was geographically dependent on where you are. So let me ask you this question as we kind of ease into the end of the show. We've just got a few minutes left. What do you hope to see over the next few years? And I'll open that up to anybody. Let's say 2 years from now, what do you hope to see?
I hope we have a graduation too, like they had in Catawba County.
I do
Because
too.
Carrie and I went to one several months ago, and it was.
They're wonderful,
it
aren't
was
they?
awesome.
Yeah, it's a great celebration. Yeah. Kyle,
So
what do you
I
hope to
hope
see?
we're doing that too.
I hope to expand. The districts are Iredell and Alexander, and I'm hoping that eventually that work towards helping Alexander too.
Yeah. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I'd like to see it. My goal for everything is one.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I started the book, if I could just get one person to read it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to see that one graduate, that
Yeah.
first one,
Right.
because I'm fairly sure the floodgates will open and people will see it,
I agree.
and it'll lead to more.
I agree. So for the community, for those listening, how can the people of Iredell County get involved with this? What's a way they can get involved?
They could donate.
They can donate.
Donate anything.
Yeah.
There's people out there that, the veterans, just even shampoo, anything from shampoo to money to clothes,
Yep.
time.
Time.
There's people that could, I talked to somebody today, Julie from the Piedmont Veterans Assistant Council.
Yeah, that's correct. Julie Zakel,
I spoke to her, and she said that they have people there that want to be mentors as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you're a veteran and you have some time on your hands, perhaps you're retired, and you want to help somebody get out of a tough time in their life, if you'd be interested in doing that, please, you can go to the Purple Heart Homes website, and there's a Contact Us button on there. If you would, just go to that, and you can fill that form out, and it'll get to me. Or you can email me directly at bborders, that's BBORDERS, at phhusa.org. It's like I've said that before.
I think so.
Yeah, phhusa.org. Yeah, you've definitely heard that before. And if you'd like to be a veteran, that would be really cool, and I would love to talk with you. We're going to work out a way that people can make monetary donations, and Purple Heart Homes is going to. We're more to come on that, on how people can, and we need monetary donations for things like incentives, right?
Yes.
And
Ceremonial
gifts for
flags
yeah,
for
and
the courtroom.
we want to have service flags for the courtroom, so that when the veterans come into the court, they can see the flag of the service that they served in. One of the cool things that I saw up at Catawba's Veterans Treatment Court was they had a brand new veteran being inducted into the court and starting that, and they had him say the Veterans Creed.
Yes.
Right? I didn't know there was a Veterans Creed, and it's really cool. It sounds a lot like the Army Creed. So
We had a Sailor's Creed.
oh my goodness. Well, I want to hear that someday.
I would have to review it.
Okay.
It's been a while. That was
awesome.
2006
Okay.
last time I.
All right. Well, we are coming to the end of the show. Let me thank everybody. You've been listening to our friends from Veterans Treatment Courts, Sarah Kirkman, Carrie Nitsu, Dave Childers, one of our mentors. Dita is here, his service dog, and Kyle Going. And I'm going to leave you guys. Any last words before we exit the show?
Last words, Carrie. Just thank everybody for listening and support Veterans Treatment Court.
Yeah. All right. Kyle, any last words?
I got nothing.
Got nothing. Okay. Well, my last words are thank you all for taking the risk of hearing me out a year and a half ago, and my impassioned plea of hey, we've got to do something for veterans. I bet you $1. There's veterans over in the jail right now. Guess what? We found out there were, wasn't there? And we've identified a couple of veterans that might qualify for this thing.
I'm almost up to 70 right now.
Almost up to 70 veterans within Iredell County that might qualify for this. So more to follow on this. Our first court date is going to be September the 14th. We're excited. Judge Carol Hicks is going to be presiding over that. We're going to see what happens. We've got veteran mentors. We've got a DA. We've got a defense attorney. We've got a clerk of court. We've got probation officers. We've got law enforcement on our side. And so, man, this is going to be a really good thing. So let's do this. Let's set a date. We'll check back in 1 year from right now. We're going to have another radio program, and we're going to celebrate the accomplishments. Does that sound good to y'all?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks. You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together. John will be back next week. Find out more about us at phhusa.org.
The new 105.9, 100.7 WSIC, Statesville, Mooresville,